Hi, welcome to today's episode of What's Become Clear. I'm Steve Wyckoff.
I'm Renee Smith.
And I'm Michelle Fleming.
Ladies, you just returned from Nashville. Did you have a good time in Nashville?
We did.
Did you do anything exciting besides the presentation that you did?
Went to the stockyards.
You went to the stockyards.
Heard about their expensive steaks. And
Wow.
Didn't actually
It was
try one.
excellent.
It was great.
The stockyards, huh?
That's
Okay.
It's the name of a restaurant.
Oh, okay. I thought maybe you were out there with your boots and.
No.
Well, tell me. You did a presentation. In fact, I've heard through the grapevine that you may have had one of the largest audiences at the conference. Is that true?
We had a packed room. They had to turn people away at the conference. We were in a smaller room, but we were packed in like sardines, and more people waiting to get in. So
Yeah.
it was really
Well,
successful.
the topic of your presentation?
This is your brain on math.
This is your brain on math. Who was the audience? All math teachers, what
Or curriculum people.
curriculum people?
Mostly 6th, 7th, and 8th grade teachers, although
Okay.
we had some high school teachers as well.
So, we always like to have a conversation when you come back because you get to interact from people across the country. And not just about math, but you have lots of conversations. What's become clear to you as a result of your trip to Nashville and the interactions that you've had?
I think that we're really advanced in Kansas. I think that's probably was my biggest aha. We had a gentleman from Calgary, Canada, come up to us after the presentation. He says, "This was worth my 3,000 miles. I traveled to get here to hear this presentation."
And we had a lady from Barbados as well. So it was an international event.
Yeah.
So it was, I think that we probably don't take into account that we really are as far as in advance as we are.
Well, the other side of the discussion is budget cuts with the financial crisis. Are other states? Did you have conversations with people from other states? Are they seeing the same kinds of reductions in funds that we are?
We didn't really have a lot of conversations with them, and I didn't really get the feel from them that they're having as many. They're not as tight as we are at this point, anyhow.
And I think that was evidenced by the fact that this was supposed to be, NCTM thought this was going to be their smallest regional convention, and it turned out to be their largest.
Really?
It was they had so many people there that sometimes it was very difficult to get into sessions.
Okay.
So
So when you look at your math crystal ball, what are the trends? Where are we going with math?
I think there's going to be a real balance between, I kind of think of the pendulum swing, and I think we know procedures, and that's how we've taught for 100 years is rote practice and procedures. Let me show you how. Then I think there was
Invert and multiply.
Yeah, don't ask why.
Yeah, just do it.
just do it.
Then it went to the other pendulum swing a little bit more in the 90s, or at least some folks were trying to make it very conceptual based.
Michelle, I can remember in the 60s when we had the new math.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, and that was their first
Yeah.
attempt. And I think now, we've come to more of a little bit middle ground where we see math as two sides of the same coin. And we know the rules and procedures. We don't even need to discuss that anymore. We've been doing that forever. But folks don't really get that conceptual understanding. And what's the difference even between conceptual and procedural?
And I think that's what interested people a lot in our presentation. We talked about how the brain actually develops and what we're starting to learn about the brain and how math plays into that. And some of the things that we talked about in our presentation were the fact that we have to make those connections for kids. Today's children aren't the type that are just going to take your word that this works and so they'll just memorize it.
Do it blindly.
Do it blindly. And so we have to help make those connections. And there is brain research to back that up.
Make it meaningful and enriching. And
One of the things that I've observed over the last, I'll say 15 years, maybe a little bit longer, is because of the advances in medical technology, we know so much more about the brain. So what do we know about the brain and kids learning math at this point?
well, they learn math in different areas of the brain. So the first thing students understand is quantity and amount. And that's in one section of the brain, the prefrontal cortex or prefrontal lobe, thank you. And then, but where they learn the symbols for the numbers, where they learn the names for those numbers, are all in different locations of the brain, as well as the motor. When students start doing arithmetic, that part of the brain they've noticed really lights up is the motor part, the motor cortex.
Connected to your fingers.
Yeah.
The first counting tools.
Yep.
So with language in one area, symbols in another area, motor cortex in another area, and quantity in a fourth place, teachers really have to be able to do a lot of enriching things and develop language, which a lot of people say math is a foreign language. It is a special language, and so all of those things have to be connected together for students.
You know, I hear all the time, math wasn't my thing and my kids can't do it either.
Mhm.
Is that a reality?
No. Now, the way they were taught the mathematics, that's why they feel that way. Because they were only doing one side of that coin, procedures and routine and memorization. And so they never truly understood the math, so therefore they felt like they just didn't get it. They don't realize it wasn't the math they didn't get, it was the way it was being taught to them. So,
And what that does is reinforce for children that you can spend your whole life and not be able to do math and still be successful. And those are the kinds of things that we try to encourage parents not to say.
You know, one of the things that I'm reading in the research now, it talks about deliberate practice. And it sounds like you guys are really talking about what is deliberate practice in math? What do you do intentionally to get better at it? Okay, so we're going to give a little sneak preview. One of the things we know is that if parents will help their kids at home with that practice, it really makes a difference. But parents need help understanding all this, don't they?
they do.
And you guys are in the planning processes right now, but here in a couple months, you're going to start launching a website for parents with weekly tips to help their kids. Do you want to share just a little the general idea about that?
Well, my episode is by the numbers, and on by the numbers, we really talk about the foundational pieces of kids learning to do mathematics and what number sense is, because really, number sense is a prerequisite for everything else they do.
What
in
is number
mathematics.
sense? Tell me that in English.
Number sense, the ability to know quantity of number, how numbers go together and can be taken apart, how operations work together, that whole understanding.
What does that mean, though, numbers go together?
Okay, like the number 75.
Okay.
Okay, I can put 75 together as 50 plus 25. I can put it together as 100 minus 25. It could be 7 tens and 5 ones. It could be 6 tens and 15
Okay.
ones. So that numbers are they're very flexible with how numbers can go together,
Yeah.
because you want to, that helps you as you advance in mathematics.
Okay.
And is 75 big or 75 small? It depends on what you're in relation to what.
In relation to what? Okay.
And my episode is going to be called You're Just Desserts. And this is going to be
I
dessert.
love dessert.
Well, that's good. Hopefully you'll love your math and dessert together.
Okay.
This will be, again, just simple little things that parents can talk to their kids about during dessert time. So there'll be recipe cards of good math conversation that they can engage in to help their children. Some of it will relate to number sense as well, a little bit higher level probably, but we'll be talking about all kinds of different math.
My son and daughter-in-law do that with my 3 grandkids now over dinner, and the kids get to choose the topic, and mom and dad ask them questions and stuff. So what you're going to do is give them some questions to ask.
I'm going to give them some prompts
Ah,
to help stimulate
just
that.
desserts.
Your Just Desserts.
And a recipe box?
A little recipe
Oh,
box
wow.
or a recipe book, one of the two.
Okay.
That's a
Cool.
cool idea.
Hey, thanks ladies, and thanks for joining us for this episode of What's Become Clear.